Most war games want you to feel powerful. This one wants you to feel human. All Quiet in the Trenches isn't about racking up kills or winning battles, it's about surviving them. All Quiet in the Trenches is a management RPG set during World War I, and surprisingly, you play as a German sergeant, or NCO, or as they call it, an Unterofficer. That's definitely not how you pronounce it, but bear with me. So, World War I was pretty complicated and messy, and I think it's pretty hard to say which side was really the good guys. You know, most wars don't have a clear good and bad guy, but when we talk about more modern wars, we typically like to ascribe certain moral qualities and values onto each side. But even with World War I being rather complicated, I do think it is pretty rare to have you play as the German side in a World War I game, so I definitely find that pretty interesting part of the game that already sets it apart from other World War I-esque contemporaries. But let's actually talk a bit more about the game. So as I mentioned, it is a survival management game taking place during World War I, and you are in charge of a lot more than just ensuring that you do a good job in battle. You have to manage the mental health and physical strain of your soldiers, you have to balance the needs of your squad with the orders you receive from your officer in charge, all while making sure you manage supplies and ensure your troops have enough ammo and food to stay in the fight. But the game really immerses you into the world as it was back in 1914. Each member of your squad has a unique background, and a lot of the backgrounds are things that could really only exist in this time period. You have soldiers from Bavaria in your squad who still consider themselves Bavarian, not German. Since if you're unaware, I feel like this should be common knowledge, but it's probably not. But a unified German nation is a pretty new invention. They only officially unified and became Germany in 1871. So before that, there was a bunch of independent states. I'm sure a lot of you know about the Holy Roman Empire, which was sort of a collection of German city-states and other bigger kingdoms within it. So honestly, Germany as a nation is pretty new. It's actually younger than the United States of America, although I guess you could say German history extends farther back. So in World War I, a lot of people didn't actually consider themselves to be German in the traditional sense that we think of it as a nationality. There's also another cool background, like a soldier who is Jewish, and due to the prejudice that he faces, he wants to prove to everyone that he is the best soldier. So he always has high morale, and he volunteers for everything, and he's up for anything. There's also a cool background of a German soldier from Alsace-Lorraine, which is territory that is now owned by France currently, but in 1870, during the Franco-Prussian War, Germany, or rather Prussia, took it over, so in the game's time period, it is still considered a new conquest of a German nation, and the French and German citizens who live there are at each other's throats. So there's a lot of unique backgrounds for all your soldiers. As you play, you get to know them. You also get to know your soldiers' attitudes on things. They all have different attributes, so things like how patriotic they are, or if they're not patriotic, or if they're independent thinkers, do they do things by the book. As you play, you get to learn more and more about the squad under your command and use their strengths and weaknesses to your own benefit. But as I mentioned, this game really isn't all that much about combat. Most of the time you're going to be dealing with the boredom and mundane tasks you have to deal with in between fighting. So there is combat, but it's been scaled back. This isn't a chaotic battlefield simulator. It's more focused, and honestly it has to be. If the game tried to mimic a real World War I trench charge, you just get your whole squad mowed down in 5 seconds. But they still attempt to simulate what it's like, it's just scaled back. There's not going to be, 1,000 people on the screen. Combat is turn-based, and you move your squad from cover to cover, and you're either defending your trench from French troops or attacking an enemy trench. So every combat round, you give your squad orders, whether that's moving or shooting at a specific squad or throwing a grenade. Everyone in your squad has to be assigned a task, and they're assigned tasks individually. So you won't just tell your whole squad to do an order, unless it's something like moving, but you actually have to assign them to the task that you want them to do. But almost every action you take gives your troops more stress, and depending on how risky you get, they can either die or get wounded. And when your soldiers are wounded, you have to use another soldier to patch them up, which can make that soldier's stress worse and can also lead to mental breakdowns on the battlefield. And now you're also down another trooper, so everything is all connected. There's also all the staples of a World War I battlefield in the game, like barbed wire blocking trench entrances, gas, machine guns, artillery, everything you would expect. But of course, the combat isn't really the main focus. I mean, I'll tell you just a story from my latest playthrough. I had just been assigned a squad, and in my first combat encounter, 3 out of 5 people in my squad died to a grenade and then some subsequent fire after. There was nothing I could do, and when I got back from combat, my lieutenant is pissed at me, all my men are angry and sad, and I can barely get any orders done because I'm down so many men. And I didn't even get a chance to actually know them. I mean, I get some replacement soldiers, and their moral is fine, but for the rest of the campaign, my 2 soldiers who survived the first encounter, they were just never the same. They became instantly jaded and sad, and they never had high moral again or ever volunteered to do jobs. They weren't useless because they became battle-hardened soldiers, but they were just never going to be happy about being there ever again. And I think it's so interesting how that's not a scripted event. That's just how the game's mechanics work. Sometimes you just can't win. You can do everything right and still lose. I mean, you can move when you're supposed to, only play it safe, and then artillery can just rain down on your position, killing and injuring your squad. Even if no one dies, your squad can still suffer mental breakdowns and high stress. It's a really interesting look at things that soldiers actually had to face. But what does the typical gameplay loop look like? I actually think it's pretty interesting. So basically, 1 turn equals a week, unless you're in battle. When you're not in battle, you'll be back at your headquarters, which has multiple sections to it. You can talk to a supply officer, who decides what rations and ammunition you get. You can talk to the mess officer, who that decides how big the rations you give your men are. There's your officer. You'll talk to him when getting assigned tasks, or of course if you have enough officer prestige, you do good in combat, then you can ask him for favors, such as not having to do work duties that week, or getting a replacement soldier, things of that nature. And then there's also the hospital, where you can volunteer to help out, or you can help your men recuperate. And then of course there's also the French village that you can visit. You can either help them harvest for more food, steal food from them, go to the pub. There's a lot of merriment that can happen, although of course your troops' attributes will affect how they treat the French town people. Are they more tolerant or intolerant? If they're tolerant, they won't have any issue going into a French town, but if they're intolerant, they're going to cause some issues that will roll back down on you. But once you're done at HQ and you're sent back to the front, you then have turns that last a day at a time, and you'll typically spend about a week at the front line until you're sent back to reserves. While you're in the trenches, you'll be doing things like repairing barbed wire, looking for snipers, picking up food and ammo, or maybe running messages. This is typically a bit of the slower side of the game because, well, there's not really much to do other than sit in a trench until you're finally ordered to attack or defend. So that is the main gameplay loop. They do have, I don't believe they have up until the end of the war. I think it goes to around 1917, but there still is a lot of gameplay in it. Even if the whole war is not finished yet, there's a lot of special events that you get either in HQ or in the trenches. I mean, I really find this game to be incredible because it'll tackle a lot of issues that AAA games rarely do. I mean, this isn't like Call of Duty or Battlefield 1. It's about the real people who fought and died for almost nothing, and like the terrible horror they had to endure to fight in the first truly industrial war. So I think it's pretty interesting that they put a lot of focus and attention to the PTSD and mental health aspect of a war. I mean, this game, it's historical, respectful, and emotional. You won't ever really feel like a hero when you play. You'll just feel like a survivor. Even when you kill French troops, I mean, your officer's a bit happier, but you don't really feel happy. You just talk to one of your troops who tells you that he killed a French trooper, and you only feel relief that one less troop is firing on you. I think this game is a great reminder that not all war stories have to be about heroes. Sometimes they can just be about the people who survived through it. All Quiet in the Trenches isn't fun in the way most games are, but I think it's powerful, and I think it tells a story that most games just aren't going to tackle. And I would really enjoy more games in this vein. So that is all I got. Hope you like it. Let me know if you ever played the game. That's really all I got. Please remember that Jesus loves you.